Sports Chat. I'm your host, Matt Muncy.
This is Brock Stafford bringing it to you again, and we're going to be talking about the trade deadline, which passed today at 3 o'clock Eastern Time, and some really amazing trades went through today.
All right, obviously we got to start with the biggest trade, the Knicks, Nuggets, and Wolves. We kind of knew the Knicks were going to get this deal done in the last couple of weeks when Anthony pretty much made it clear that it was only the Knicks, and that was it that he was willing to go to. The Nets never really had a shot because he wasn't willing to sign with them, even though they were going to send the best package. So in the deal, the Knicks get Carmelo Anthony, Chauncey Billups, and then just kind of package fillers, Sheldon Williams, Anthony Carter, Ronaldo Balkman, and Corey Brewer from the Wolves. Williams, Carter, and Brewer are all in their final year of the contract. Balkman's got 3 more years. It's only at a $1.65 million a year,
which probably means more than likely they're going to be looking to just buy off his contract.
I wouldn't be surprised if they may keep him, depending on who gets bought out and depending on if anybody wants to come to the Knicks.
They could keep him around. Just depends on if they want to fill it with a big man, which they didn't end up getting a big man other than Sheldon Williams.
And then Corey Brewer, they were trying to trade him away. That was a no-go. He's got a $4.9 million qualifying option. I just don't see them picking him back up unless he wows them.
And I don't see him getting the minutes with all the guys that the Knicks have this year. They have a lot of guys at that 2-3 spot who can really fill in, and I just don't see it being something that they're going to be able to really find enough minutes for him to find any lasting value at the team.
And then I think the more curious one would be the Chauncey Billups deal. He's in his final year, but they have a team option for $14.2 million next year. If I was them, I'd pick it up just because I think Billups is going to bring a lot to that team, and he's going to bring a lot of leadership. And obviously it's not his team, but you saw what he did with the Pistons. You saw what he did with Denver. I think he can do the same thing with the Knicks, but I think the problem is going to lie with, do they really want to spend $14.2 million on it? But I think for one more year, it's well worth it since they won't be getting a decent point guard until the summer of 2012 when Chris Paul and Darren Williams will be available.
Even if they don't hang on to him, if they pick up his salary, there's still talk that with another one of the trades for Phoenix this year, or this deadline, that Steve Nash is possibly going to be moved because they moved to get a point guard to fill in as the starter for that team for the future.
Yeah. So Nash wouldn't be moved till next year though. Now the summer at the earliest.
That's what I'm saying. I mean, over the summer, if they pick up his his offer, they trade him off. But again, I don't know if that works. But for the Knicks, I really think this is a solid move if they want to keep contending in the playoffs. Does it really make them contenders in the East? I still don't know if it moves them up past the 5 spot where they're at right now, because they have to get through the Hawks and the Bulls. I think the Hawks may have taken a step back. They'll maybe move up another spot or so, but I don't see them breaking that through that Bulls. And then obviously the top 3 are Heat, Celtics and Magic, and I don't see them breaking into that top 4 spot. So
yeah,
really,
well, I think the top 4 is pretty much solidified. I don't see the Bulls dropping out of there. I don't see any of the top 4 dropping out of those spots. The Hawks and the Knicks are going to be the 5 and 6 that just kind of, it's going to be a toss-up between those two.
The other side of the trade really is the more telling part. Denver really got some solid pieces through there. They got Felton, obvious, Gallinari, who's a terrific player. They got Timothy Mozgov, which was the big sticking point for this trade. I mean, he's a great player. Don't get me wrong. He's played really hard for the Knicks. Is he really the sticking point for that? I would have thought having to give up Gallinari and Wilson Chandler and Felton and Pick might be a bigger sticking point than Timothy Mozgov, but apparently that was the big issue.
I think it was more of they don't have a center now, really and truly. So I think they might have looked at him as putting him in the starting lineup and just giving him minutes. But centers are kind of a dime a dozen. You can find someone to fit in there in free agency that's gonna be low impact, maybe offensive wise, but you can pick up a decent defensive center, because we saw the Thunder do that pretty easily today.
Yeah.
Felton, I see him getting traded next year. We're in the off season. I don't think he's going
Off
to be
season,
around.
yeah.
Ty Lawson is the point guard of the future there. Gallinari, he's got 2 years left. Chandler is in his final year, but he's got a $3 million qualifying offer.
I would pick up because Chandler is fantastic, but
Yeah,
you've got
I would pick that up as well. Especially the Nuggets don't want to rebuild.
they gave up a lot, but I think they got the most value that they could have possibly gotten out of this Melo deal. Just with all the things said and done, I think they were able to financially and player wise and pick wise able to come out the best in this deal.
Yeah, they got a 2014 first round pick from New York, 2012, 2013 second round pick from Golden State, and $3 million in cash. The Timberwolves on the other side of this deal, they take Eddie Curry's his contract. It's like $11 million, but then they get Anthony Randolph, which is someone the Knicks were trying to trade this whole season, and basically the Timberwolves get him for Corey Brewer, which seems like a very lopsided trade when the Knicks wanted a first round pick so badly for him.
They basically gave this up. It's more than just Corey Brewer. It's facilitating this trade because this trade wouldn't have happened without Curry's contract being absorbed by the Timberwolves. And I think the Timberwolves really made this deal happen because they wouldn't have had financially the cap room to make this trade go through. I like what Timberwolves are able to facilitate. Unfortunately, that's all the Timberwolves ever are going to do is be facilitators for other players, or for other teams trading, because they can't hang on to their franchise players.
Yeah, because
it's a
nobody
sad
wants
situation.
to stay. Nobody wants to stick around with a team that continues to lose, and in my opinion, they continue to fail in the draft pretty bad.
I think the bigger issue is, especially with this pick with Randolph, I find myself a little bit confused because he and Beasley are have a similar type. I think he's a more defensive minded and more potential than Beasley has at this point. But at the same time, I just don't see there being a lot of minutes at that four position. I like Love as a four rather than a five, but I mean, really, their most solid players all pretty much play that four position, and it just seems like a logjam and a little bit of a redundancy.
The next trade, in my opinion, the biggest shocker, because no one saw this trade coming. Darren Williams being traded to the Nets. I really don't understand the point of the trade because Utah was still in the playoff hunt. They were a decent team. You hear all the rumors that Sloan retired because of Williams. And so my thing is, if you're the Jazz front office and that's the truth, why do you trade Williams now? Because you're not going to bring back Sloan.
Number one, I think the Nets had to do something. I think
Oh, they had to.
losing out on Melo was a big hit for them. For them to be able to keep their heads up and have a future and have perspectives for the future, they had to make a big splash now. And I think that package of the two first rounders and Devin Harris and Derek Favors, was going to get it done. Now Utah sees that move, sees the players involved, sees everything that they're. I think it's very hard for any front office to turn down number one, the number what was he number 3 this year?
Yeah.
Number 3 pick in the draft, turn down a very serviceable point guard, and 2 first round picks. I can't see any team really giving that up.
I do think the Darren Williams trade doesn't make the Nets an amazing team, but putting him with Brook Lopez, I think helps. It could draw in some free agents. I just don't see Darren Williams staying with this team come the summer of 2012. They're going to have to make some huge impacts in the next year to keep this guy. And I guess from a standpoint, if you're going to trade for someone, wouldn't you want someone that wants to actually come to your team? Wouldn't you want someone that's excited to come to your team? That's what threw me off about trying to get Carmelo so bad. I want someone that wants to play once their contract's up. I don't want to have to try and woo somebody to stay on my team.
But I think they're moving in the right direction by trying to make moves that actually show that they are interested. They are willing to do what it takes to get these big guys. And Darren Williams even said during the press conference today that he was initially very reluctant to this trade, and he had said at the beginning he didn't really like the trade. But he's kind of said after talking to Billy King for a little bit, he actually is okay with this trade. and he's
Well,
excited to see where it's going to go. He's being a good soldier.
I
I
was gonna
don't
say
think he
that
stick.
seemed just more professionalism. You're not gonna come out and bash the team that you just got traded to. He didn't want to be traded. His wife's pregnant. He didn't want her to be moving, and you're going from a playoff team to a future team. But I like the trade from the Nets. I think it really helps the Jazz. They get some decent players in return. If they can turn those first round draft picks into better players, I mean that's always the biggest thing. Is when you get draft picks, do you actually turn them into worthy players or do you turn them into busts? Then we had some cap clearing trades. One, the Nets made another one with the Warriors. They traded Troy Murphy and a 2012 second round pick for Brandon Wright, and
Dan Gadzurich.
both of those players only have 1 year left. So this obviously this was a big cap clearing deal. Troy Murphy has been talked about being bought out. I mean, I don't. The Warriors aren't gonna want to play him.
Well, I mean, they trade him to basically buy him out. They knew he was going to be expiring contract. They
Yeah.
just want to get the numbers off the board.
And so now the big question is, where does Troy Murphy go? Because obviously Orlando's interested, the Heat are interested, the Celtics are interested, and I saw that Chicago was possibly interested. Out of those teams, I think he's going to go Heat because,
I
in my opinion, with the Heat, he's going to get playing time, along with the best chance to win a championship. I don't think Orlando's quite there. The Bulls aren't quite there, and with Boston, there's still a logjam in the front court. Even if it's not a great front court, there's still a logjam there.
I think the front court just got unlog jammed today. They basically got rid of three of their front court players, but
But they
I
also
think
but
that
they brought back Green and Kristich, which are both front court players. And then when the O'Neals come back, you have five front court players right there.
I honestly think that the move was to free up space so Troy Murphy would sign with them after he got released. That's what everybody keeps saying. I think the Celtics would probably have a good shot at him. I don't know if the Heat necessarily need him as much. They need somebody at the power forward spot. I think they need a shooter. Just depends on which team I guess appeals to him most. I kept hearing the Magic before that if he got bought out, he wanted to go to the Magic. I don't know if they need him. They have Ryan Anderson who does the same role that he would be playing. So
I think it all depends on how long he's wanting to sign with the teams too. Because if it's for 1 year, you go Boston or Heat. You don't go Bulls or Orlando because I just feel like those two teams just don't have enough to get past Boston or Miami. Another, I guess you would call it a cap clearing trade. One that doesn't make sense to me. The Rockets and the Suns. The Rockets traded Aaron Brooks for Goran Dragic and a 2011
ridiculous.
first round pick, but and it's lottery protected. I just don't get this one. I understand why the Rockets wanted to get rid of Brooks, but I don't understand why the Suns wanted to get rid of Goran and why you would trade a 2000 first round for Aaron Brooks, who is in the final year of his deal.
I think it has to do with again. There's been that story of Nash maybe moved. I think Aaron Brooks is more of a starting potential. I know the Rockets wanted to get rid of him because he was unhappy with his role. Kyle Lowry was playing a lot of the starting minutes. Dragic was playing the style that Nash plays, and I thought that was odd that they got rid of somebody who plays the style that they really like playing, and go for a guy who is more of a scorer, less of a distributor. So I think next summer really is going to be the summer that they get rid of Nash. I think bringing him in was to kind of do a culture change in Phoenix. I don't know about any other expiring contracts Phoenix might have, but I think it's going to be something in the long run. I think they needed to make the move to get a solid starting point guard. I don't think they were going to wait on Nash anymore. So